just quickly. I think the data is the most important. Obviously, money, right? I think everyone here would like to be able to buy TV ads. We can probably help you raise a lot of your money. Number one. Number two, I think we can tell you what's working probably faster than almost anywhere else because it's a two-way media. So the campaigns where I've worked in where I've actually gotten to sit at the table, and I've definitely done my share of both, and they're definitely people in this room who I work great with, and there are other people that, as again, we aren't yet part of the puzzle. And that's not always about consultants. A lot of times that's about the candidate themselves, most importantly. But I think the places where we've been successful, we've been able to test TV ads in real time for cheap. We've been able to tell you on a daily basis what issues are more important to people and where by zip code. We've done a lot of online polls for candidates. I guess probably shouldn't go into too many specific ones, where we're running ads that have a poll question, and we're able to do that by zip code and match it up to offline polling, and we found it works. And able to get that information back to the campaign and say, look, we have a lot of supporters in this zip code, but not that one. Here's how we should move our field operation around. Here's where our volunteers. I mean, some of this, again, it's gut instinct, but it doesn't have to be. And I think the biggest thing that is, whether it's search ads or Facebook ads or what have you, the low-cost stuff, is that we can just do so much testing so much more cheaply than you could even produce a television spot to test, let alone run it. So I think it's just, use the data and get smarter about the offline media we do, which, while potentially higher reach, certainly a larger piece of the budget, you can't get back that mail piece after you send it out. Once you've spent $20,000 on a TV spot, that's that. But we, for $1,000, probably could have told you, which of your ads is working.
I'd echo that sentiment. I think one of the overlooked opportunities is test your message before you mail and before you commit to TV, because this media talks back. You have to listen.
Yes, sir.
Steve from Florida. You said something rather dramatic, that websites are becoming a thing of the past, and there's this need to push the information. I'd like everybody to say, 15 seconds if they agree with that.
The question was, are websites passe?
No, sort of.
I didn't say they were passe.
Sort of. Look,
That was the question.
I think that's where, as long as that's where people are giving money, they're critical to me, and how we test them has got to be really important. I think, though, I look at it, I think the website's just growing, right? So I sort of agree in that. To me, your URL is maybe the mothership, but there are extensions of your web page in a Facebook community. It takes iframes now. You can build the same thing in there. Your YouTube channels are getting really sophisticated. That's almost like a whole page. So it's just that instead of just needing a web page, it's one part of a much larger ecosystem of properties.
Well, and great point. AT&T now doesn't put on their stuff www.att.com. They put www.facebook.com/ATT. So that's where corporate America is pushing people, not to a website, but to their social media page.
I think I might interpret Becky's remarks just a little bit different than websites are passe. I think that the website metaphor, it reminds me of a book I read called The Balanced Scorecard. And the book opens up about trying to learn to fly a plane. And the pilot's flying the plane, and he doesn't look at the altimeter, and he crashes. And he says, damn, that was painful. He says, next time I go up, I'm going to look at the altimeter. And so next time he goes up, he stares at the altimeter the whole time, and he runs out of gas and crashes. He says, son of a gun. He says, I need to look at the gas gauge. And so he goes up the third time, and he's not looking at his airspeed. He loses airspeed, and he crashes the third time. And the message in the balanced scorecard is whether you're going to serve your shareholders, your employees, or your customers. There's got to be a little bit of balance here. And I think when it comes to the web, one of the frustrations that I hear, feel, or see among the efforts is people talk about websites, right? It's all about the website. And then there are other people like me saying, no, it's really about targeting and advertising. If you're going to do a print campaign, you might want to reserve a little bit money to mail the piece, okay? So if you build this website and you don't advertise it, that's wrong. That's the altimeter and the gas gauge. And then the third thing is where this whole social element comes in, and that is most of the time no campaigns do much after they visited the website. They don't do things like retargeting. And so the new website, not your father's website, okay, but I think the new websites will include the social, the viral, and they'll be more dynamic than those that we think of. And I also have to say that we've seen more success with customized landing pages against advertising than the large investment in websites. So a landing page that speaks to by gender, by demographic, by issue.
I would agree that the homepage is dead.
The
I think
homepage is
that's an important point.
Nobody's home.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we're using terms that aren't quite as
Yeah.
what everybody else is, but you're absolutely right.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Carl Kell, Kentucky. Rich, take the idea of the crash. When does a candidate crash? When he reads too much of all the data about the target audiences that he serves?
I think that question is sort of like how much education is too much. This is a real-time poll. You may not like the results that you see, okay, but you can't deny them. I'm completely out of the business of deciding what banner ad's going to work better, okay, because I can depend on the wisdom of the crowds, right? If the pendulum ever swings too far with campaigns reading the data exhaust of online media, it's a very good thing because we're on empty. We're driving on fumes. Literally, we have channel partners, political consultants, and new media consultants, and the campaign never logs in to see the results. That's the kid sleeping on the desk. You're asleep at the wheel, okay? And by the way, there's a lot of risk in there. This is a $25 to $50 billion market, and they're trading online ad impressions right now like pork bellies, okay? There is zero regulation. So if you're not bothering to open up the analytics, if you're not looking at the statistics from your ad server, you really run the potential risk of a Bernie Madoff walking in and promising you the world and not delivering. So you have to do the homework. I don't think, and I'll defer to you guys, I don't think you can pay too much attention to this.
I was going to say, get a new consultant.
Yeah.
Consultants are good. There's another question, yes.
Do you think there's still a bias out there in terms of online ads, specifically just to be produced for the internet? That you still hit that client resistance where they say it's got to be cheap because it's just going on the internet. I mean, do you deal with that type of thing? And do you think how do you deal with a client that faces that gives you that kind of problem?
You want to shoot it first?
Yes. I'm not in the high profit part of this business, but if anyone can tell me how to do that, that would be terrific. We just got to demonstrate value better.
Exactly. We are the one part of the industry. We measure everything. We have a metric for everything. Everything we do is analyzed. That we have all the numbers. And so if you are failing, you know it pretty quickly. And it's up to the consultants in the campaign to say, okay, we got to switch gears. We got to change this around. On the flip side, too, we can be one of the highest rate of return of money that a campaign will spend. We spend in a cycle 22 months or 20 months raising money, and then we spend about 2 months really, getting our people out there and motivating our voters and getting them out there. Well, online advertising is about, just back up again the trends. In 2008, 10% of the $100 million we raised for John McCain came from online ads. In the 2010 cycle of our statewide races, we were seeing more like 20-25% of what we were raising online coming from our advertising. And so lots of our campaigns gave us a set ROI. As long as we could raise $2 for every buck we were spending, it didn't matter what we spent. So they saw real value in that because you could demonstrate you spend this, you're going to get this back in return. And personally, we like working under that model because that gives us the freedom then to go do other things online that we know the campaigns should be doing. But if you tell them you're going to spend some money on GOTV, there are lots of campaign managers that say, don't you dare. So we kind of like this ROI model because it gives us the freedom to do the whole thing.
You know, I would say my advice would be sip before you gulp. I think it's really inappropriate to spend thousands or tens of thousands of dollars in creative before you test it, okay? So, you know, I would argue strongly that you get some concepts and you test early and see what works. And I think when campaigns are presented with that, then there's real evidence of efficacy, and I think it's easier to sell a higher quality presentation for the candidate. And you know, I also think that to the extent that you're working with a new media consultant, the more clients they have, you know, there's this risk, well, will you have enough time for me? But one of the real advantages that we have across 100, and I'm not a new media consultant, we're a media platform, but looking at the relevancy of the data, okay? You know, Becky has I don't know how many clients she worked in the last category, but you can see things and report back to the campaign. The example that I always use is in 2008, the #1 issue that separated a Republican from his check was build the border fence, okay? And of those clients that we had running ads building the border fence, as the economy tanked, we saw that shift, and you know, we picked up the hotline and said, enough with the border fence ads. It's not yielding dollars anymore. And so I think one of the challenges that campaigns have, if you're not working with somebody with exposure to what the results are of other campaigns, you're only getting your absolute data, and you can never know how good or bad that is.
Anyone else? Okay, well, I've got some credibility in saying the following. I've written and produced television commercials for 23 years, and I got to tell you, I feel a little bit like I'm in the stagecoach business. And it's every cycle television matters less. When I Love Lucy was running, 60% of all televisions were on I Love Lucy. Today, 14% of televisions are on American Idol, and it's #1, right? So it doesn't take a genius to realize we got to go find these people, and we've got to find what they're doing and where they're getting their information, and we've got to communicate with them. And so I would encourage you, learn more about what these folks are doing, talk to these folks, hire these people. I'm not selling me, I'm selling them, right? And we'll wrap up about 10 minutes early. I thank you all very much, and thank you very much for the panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And go buy a raffle ticket. Do something good for a kid.